Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed. I'm your host, Jason Shea. Today we have Alex, the founder of Librarium Games, which is built on creating various different board and card games packed into a small box. Each one have a unique fairy tales that waiting to be explored, starting from originally handmade prototype, and he has really grown the business into a furthering publishing company, and now he's also trying to bring more games to the market as well. So thank you so much for joining us on the interview today, Alex.
No, thank you so very much for having me.
Yeah, so first of all, can you let our audience know how did the company first got started? What was the inspiration behind you starting your own publishing business?
Well, it kind of came from two different places almost at the same time. The first thing that happened is that somebody had sort of loosely dared me to make a board game, to which I was like, you can't make it. Like, all the best board games already exist out there. How can I possibly compete? And what inevitably came of that dare is that I made a board game based on my job. I work in a restaurant, and I brought that prototype to work. It was made out of a cardboard box and a deck of index cards. And people at my job absolutely loved playing this game. We played it almost every night after work. It was super fun. It was a very silly time. And more and more people were asking me, how can I buy this from you? How can I bring this home to my friends, basically? And what I realized was that in looking into the cost of production to make that game, I had well and beyond overstepped my bounds. I had made a game... Okay. You'd buy it on the shelf for over $100 kind of size. It's a big game.
Okay.
So I put way too many ideas and way too many components in there. And I just did not know what I was getting myself into because I was not designing it from the business side. I was just designing what I thought would be a fun game. And so, that was the first sort of big piece of storytelling that happened. And that led us into sort of a new problem, which is if I was going to actually make a game, I would need to make it much, much smaller, something much more affordable, something that we could actually produce and maybe even sell. So the new challenge sort of became what is the smallest and most fun game that I could make? And that is when I began the project for Calendra. That was kind of going to be our projected first game that we were going to make. Ironically, the pandemic started. This is back in 2020. And what inevitably happened is that I was working on Calendra, and somebody through the grapevine had heard that I had been designing games, and they reached out to me and asked if we could turn their book series into a game. And this is what brought ML Buckman into our life. He was a very interesting character that really pushed the envelope on making our business exist. So we have kind of this crazy thing happening where now I'm almost designing two different games at the same time. The game that I want us to publish first and the game that a buyer is willing to sponsor having us publish first. So incidentally, what took place is we put all of our marbles in this other fellow. We said, you know what? You need a game. You know what you're looking for. Let's see if we can make that game with you and get this to be a thing that we can successfully collaborate on and actually produce something. And from behind the scenes, this was super important for me because make the game I could definitely do, but manufacture the game, I had no idea what that was going to look like yet. And this fellow had already put together several books over the course of his career, and he knew a little bit more about the manufacturing process. So that aspect is where I kind of put my faith in all of this. So we had this crazy series of things go down where basically the first thing that ever happened was we made The Great Chase. Great Chase came out of this series of books that we were working on with M.L. Buckman.
Okay.
But at the exact same time, we were already very well off making Calendra, which was the game that we were shooting to make.
Yeah.
And so within 1 year's time, we basically put together both of these.
Oh, okay. I see.
And it would have probably been the case that we had published Calendra first if it was not for M.L. Buckman stepping into the scene and trying to get us to make The Great Chase.
I see.
So between these two interactions happening, this was really the birthing point of our company, because we had done a crowdfunding campaign with the prototype for The Great Chase. And when that raised enough money to publish, I was like, okay, we need a business, we need a name, we need social media, we need all the things. And I have none of the things right now.
For sure. Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of like how we actually kind of got started.
I see. And also the first game that you mentioned that was a big box, is that actually got published at the game?
No, that first game has not yet been published. And I kind of consider that like my final boss for running this.
Your final boss, okay.
You know, like I can make these little games, but the whole sort of like MO behind making these littler games is that one day we might earn the ability to produce something that is a bigger scale and a nicer sized box. I have actually been using this platform of my company to learn about scaling up the games and scaling can be inside of the container and what can we actually realistically offer.
I see. Got it. And what does your process look like when you're, mentioned about you working with is he, I guess, a author of the property? Did he reach out to you, right? Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah, that was a really unusual circumstance because I promise you nobody else walking around with no resume is getting approached by somebody with a serious business offer. And I know that super lucky to have such a weird thing happen with that. Because I had not technically published a game yet, but this guy just really wanted it to happen. And he was facing a really unique problem because he wanted the game to exist. He had tried a bunch of times to make the game and have other people help him make the game, but they kept coming up with something that was competitive. And he needed a game that was cooperative.
Okay, it wasn't the right design in the game.
Right. And the big part of this is that we're working as like a team of investigators. So we need each person's role on that team to mesh into one another in ways that's going to like get us to work through the puzzles together. And every time that he had tried to do this, it was just not working out. It was not coming together. Now, ironically, the other crazy part about this is that we designed The Great Chase during total shutdown. So I was completely alone. I was incapable of spending that much time with the people who I know and do. And so I literally designed the game in isolation. And that's what makes it such a good cooperative game, because I built it to be a really good solo game that you can diversify what the roles are going to be when you get to have other people at the table.
I see. Well, that's one of the biggest lessons that you have learned so far, like taking that games from the idea to actually in people's hands.
Yeah, well, when it came to that project, one of the hardest things was collaborating with another artist, really just getting to be on the same wavelength as somebody else when you're trying to produce something is a never-ending battle. There's so many different points of view on how things should look, how things should work, what are the mechanics going to be, like how are we going to sort of like teach this game to people, what is the storytelling going on in the game, and all of those things have to be like mutually agreed upon with somebody who has a completely different perspective on what the plan is. That is a very different experience from what we do within like our own studio of how we set things up, because most of the time everyone that we work with within the library is a little bit more like on the same wavelength. Like when we're doing a project in-house, we agree on an idea before we even get started with something, and then we are very much better at the collaborating side of things.
Sure. I see. That's definitely interesting. And how many months does that project took you?
That's a good question. I think that the prototyping process for The Great Chase was about 8 months.
8 months, okay.
That was putting together like the very first prototype, which you had just been asking about, like my sort of like origin stories on that too. A lot of the time time, I will completely like hand drawn the prototypes that we do.
Oh, okay.
So like we will do entire decks of cards that are just completely drawn out by hand,
Oh,
little doodles and things to figure out how the mechanics are going to come together. And I think that this is probably one of the most important ingredients in how we do things, because the handmade prototype is a very different thing than the digital prototype. So our general rule of thumb is that we go through about 2 to 3 hand-drawn versions of the game before we go into the digital versions of the game, which we also do 2 to 5-ish times, depending on how many times we have to iterate or change the mechanics.
I see.
But those phases of the early hand-drawn prototypes are really where the magic actually happens. And so our general procedure here, I have one other guy who I work with a lot. His name is Ben Seagrave. And his kind of role in the company is that he designs just thousands of game ideas. His goal is just come up with a game every week, basically. And then like every other month or so, we sit down and he'll present to me all of these different ideas. We'll play through a couple of them and we'll see if there's anything that we like. About like 1 out of every 30 to 40 of these is like, oh man, this is a great idea. We need to like find some way to kind of like expand on this idea. And that's usually when we pluck that diamond off the rough and I start applying the artwork to it. So we get his hand-drawn prototypes first. That's where we just relentlessly generate ideas. And then I pull one of those aside and I throw as much of my own like hand-drawn artwork into it as I can to help like reframework the mechanics and the numbers, get the flow of the game happening a little bit better. And what's cool about the handmade prototypes is that they can be very directly edited very quickly. So like we can iterate one of the prototypes like 5 or 6 times in the same week sometimes, you know, where we change a number or a mechanic or a rule or something. And we just go through that process over and over and over again until we start hammering into like, okay, this is a nice set of cards now. And from there, it's all about transitioning all that information into a digital atmosphere where we can really expand upon like the look of the cards and how like the symbols are going to come together a little bit more clearly, make some final decisions on like color palettes and things like that. And that's when we start getting the much nicer looking versions of the game.
I see.
And then whatever is our last prototype on the digital side of things is usually what we bring to the crowdfunding platform. So what you see when you see one of our Kickstarters is usually like the penultimate game where it's like, this is our final version of our version of the game. And then we do the crowdfunding process, do the final tweaks on everything and put it through into the manufacturing procedure.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. One thing I think you do something very unique that since we have interviewed a lot of other businesses in the toys and game industry. You mentioned in the pre-interview, you also showcase your game at Renaissance Fair. Can you kind of walk us through on why do you even decide to go there and what would the experience look like so far?
Yeah, well, also another ultimate irony behind our first game being all about aircraft and military exploration. This one, not so much in the flavor palette of what we normally wanted to create, but the business proposal that came with this was obviously something that we couldn't pass up. A lot more of what we are really after is the sort of like fiction folklore category of storytelling. As you can see behind me with this massive library of ancient books. I have spent many years studying fiction and folklore and storytelling and like way of sort of pedagogy for children to take morals out of a story that has like hidden meanings in it, basically. Behind all of that is where we sort of pull the information for how we make these other games. So, for example, Calendra is a game that has a really strong, like, Irish folklore background to it. Our next game that we came up with, which is Phoenix Farm, is a game that came really heavily out of, like, Russian folklore and mythology. where, stories about surviving winter and like the magical firebird are a big piece of what's going on in the culture.
Yeah.
And soon we're actually going to be producing this game. This is Royal Thread Count. This is a Japanese themed fashion design competition.
Okay.
And this one is heavily based on the storytelling of like Kaguyahime, which is a Japanese princess who is like adorned in many different silks and all of these different storytelling things.
Okay.
So there's this big background of like pulling real mythology out of old stories and trying to bring them to a new light. And ironically, in the kind of like we're done with Calendra's production side of things, I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out like where could we bring this that it would really feel like it's at home.
I see.
And Calendra, more than anything, has this really great, rich, like medieval vibe to it. So I started looking around at, like we live near the King Richard's Fair. We live near the Connecticut Renaissance Fair. One of the very first events that I had been invited to while I was prototyping Phoenix Farm was just through a friend who goes to a Yule festival that's celebrated every winter around here. And so that kind of was the beginning of the snowballing. Like I went to the Yule festival. We brought the prototype for Phoenix Farm. We had like a dozen children running around screaming, like talking about the game, wanting to play it again. This is a really great setting. I wonder if we could like kind of expand upon that a bit.
I see.
And we ended up throwing our application at the Connecticut Renaissance Fair, and they accepted us, I think, as kind of like a last minute proposal. Like, and then they failed, so they got in contact with us like 3 weeks before they opened. They were like, "Hey, so if you still want the booth, it's yours." And I was just like, "Yep, we'll take it." So,
are you the only game company at the entire fair? Just wondering, is there any other game company there?
We definitely showed up as the only like tabletop game company. There are other games at the fair, like the archery and
that kind of
the old timey things like that. But there is nothing even remotely like what we are bringing to the fair.
I see.
And so, the crazy part about our first year there is that we had about 2 to 3 weeks to prepare, and I had no idea what to expect. My first and biggest problem is we're a tabletop board game, card game company, and we're going to be setting up a booth that's going to be outside for 8 weeks.
That's
so like, how are we going to make that happen, right? What are we going to do to protect the product and keep everything kind of functional while trying to get people to sit down at a game table in the fall out here, which is windy? It's like all these extra big complications, right? So for our first booth, we had like carpets for walls. We had like 3 tables and like a small shelf where we could put everything. That was like that was our first go at it, basically. And it was a kind of thrown together project, but it was a huge experience for us. Like our first year there, people were really excited to see us. We got this amazing following right away. A whole bunch of people trying out the games because at that point in time, we had already published Calendra and The Great Chase, but we were almost done with Phoenix Farm.
I see.
So we were having people sort of like prototype that with us. We're just like spitballing ideas around, like just very down to earth, like being very raw for our customer base. Like, here's what we're working on. Tell us what you think. It really built a whole new momentum for how we do everything because our presence there was really developing nicely. And so our plan for the next year, was our second year there, is we wanted to like launch Phoenix Farm for Returned. And so we had done all of our crowdfunding over the winter and we had gotten everything sort of set up kind of similarly to what we're doing right now. And we ended up getting the game in hand like 2 days before we opened. I was, sweating. I was very nervous. I was not sure if we were going to make it on time. And we ended up having like a crazy opening day where it's like, here's the new game. Welcome.
Nice.
Really just a wonderful scenario there. that brought us into this year. We just finished our 3rd season at the Ren Fair recently.
Okay, how did it go?
Yeah, super strong feedback from people. One of the things that I was kind of like nervous about this year is that we didn't have a new game to offer for people. Anybody who is a returning customer for us this year wouldn't necessarily have something new to go home with. But that didn't end up mattering almost at all, because people who we had already met just wanted to come back and talk to us about their experience with the games that they bought the year before. That brought in like 500 to 600 new customers over the course of the season that were positive feedback, new people into the mix. And we spend most of that time this year really trying to showcase Royal Thread Count and getting people to try this one out and see what they think of it, and give us a little bit more of like an insight into what can we anticipate for like mechanical issues, if there are any. And this is, I think, kind of like the secret best thing about being at the Ren Fair, is that it has the same vibe as going to PAX, but it's kind of like PAX medieval. So it's very down to earth. People don't expect everything. They just kind of come to see what's available. And there's no problems trying out prototypes, changing the rules halfway into the games. What's working, what's not working. And that's great for us, because we had probably like 200 plus playtests for Royal Thread Count this season. Where we're running like 6 to 8 of those every day. And we're just getting a whole bunch of feedback from people, and not even people getting to sit down for a whole test, just playing like 10 minutes of the game and seeing how it looks. So lots and lots of good feedback coming from different people who come to see us there.
Okay, very nice. So that's actually, you already answered one of my follow-up questions. So because you are the only company I know that actually exhibit the games at Renaissance Fair. So like you mentioned, the audience does respond a little bit differently compared to people that's going to like PAX or Origin or other those giant board games and show. What is like the main differences that you notice of the people that show up to Renaissance Fair versus like a traditional board games?
I think that one of the weirder parts is from my own personal experience of doing all of this, because I obviously very much want to be a part of like these big flashy conventions, right? But I am also super humble and like really not so good at like broadcasting myself. So I had this amazing sort of like nervousness and anxiety about bringing our company to these big fancy places where these like multi-million-dollar companies are going to be sitting left over there. So like this atmosphere of PAX was something that I really wanted right away, but I didn't think that we were going to be like qualified for. And so I thought that it would be kind of just a different experience, a little bit more of like a soft opening to be at a place like the Ren Fair, where people are not really expecting us to be there or expecting us to be competing with anybody nearby. And what has happened is kind of almost the exact opposite of what I anticipated. Like hundreds of people trying to be at our booth, and like we can't even take all of the customers that we want to have. Like, we don't have enough space for it. I keep like a reservation list every day. It's like noon. So we are just way too busy to keep up with what people want. More than anything, every person who is coming to our booth is like, why aren't you at PAX? Why aren't you at these other places? Made me realize that like we would probably have gotten a lot more of like a warm welcoming if I had just tried it in the first place. But I'm really happy that we got to start our story at this completely unexpected
different type of show.
Place.
For sure.
Really funny thing too when we show up at PAX, because it's like we're gonna be coming out of the woods, you know?
True. Yeah, but I think you have a very strong like story around the brand, the theme that you have. So I want to kind of go into one of your game. Maybe you have like a demo or like a copy. Can you also explain for those people that haven't heard of your games, like how is it being played, like some of the basic gameplay, so people will know what to expect?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I would more or less highlight like what I consider to be the Librarium trilogy. Our three kind of original titles that we have put together. Calendra is the very first one that we did. This is 2 to 4 player competitive Celtic card game. In this game, each of us represents one of the 4 seasons. So there is a spring, summer, autumn, and winter player when you're playing a 4-player setup. But this can be 2 or 3 player as well. We just pull different colors out of the game when we play.
Okay.
Now, the gameplay of this one is particularly vicious and interesting. This is a super deception heavy game.
Okay.
Where kind of the way that this works is almost like a deck builder in reverse.
Okay.
Normally in a deck builder, there's kind of like two big things that are not going to show up in this game. The
Okay.
first is collecting cards. This game contains all the cards that you're going to need. It's a very self-contained, like there will never be more cards. The other big thing about a deck builder is that you normally prepare a deck and then come to game night and then we duke it out.
Yeah.
That is very different from what's going on in here because we start you off with a deck of completely random cards and you're going to use that deck to steal the cards of your season back from your opponents while we
Okay.
So your main mechanic in the gameplay is to build the deck by stealing it back from your opponent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And whoever
okay.
can form a winning hand using only the cards of their season takes the game.
I see.
It's a little bit like poker. It's a little bit like chess, where we're playing very quick 2 to 5 minute hands.
Okay.
Where only a flush can win the game.
Okay. Okay.
It's
okay.
a very interesting game on the
Yeah.
4-player scenario because there's almost like too much going on for you to be able to keep up with who has what. The 1v1 of Calendra is one of my all-time favorite things that we have produced. Okay. And it is the playtest that I offer the most while I'm at the Ren Fair because I can run that demo in about 20 minutes. And that is where the chess side of this really comes in because rather than randomizing the decks, we give each other our opponent's deck, basically.
Oh, okay.
So if I am autumn and you are winter, you are going to start with a completely orange autumn deck, and I'm going to start with a completely blue winter deck. You need to steal my deck away from me before I can steal your deck away from you. And it's a really crazy push and pull on who's going to get away with that first.
Interesting. Okay. Got it.
That's a quick talk on Calendra. Phoenix Farm is the next game that we did. This is a 2 to 6 player game of competitive nurturing. So in this game, like a fairy tale of old, you are gifted a box of ashes and a broom and told to turn this into a wealth of gold.
Okay.
So how this is going to work is like day in and day out, you will use your broom to sweep the ashes until you find yourself a magic egg. And then you are going to need a new tool because the broom is not going to cut it for hatching this egg. You will walk all the way down the mountain to visit the local merchant and purchase new tools to take care of your bird. In this case, we're going to need a kiln to hatch a phoenix egg because it needs to get really, really hot. So we buy a kiln, we come all the way back up the mountain and set it up. And on our next turn, when we are rolling the dice, we are using the kiln to try and hatch the egg. As this goes, you will be going through the transitions of, I think, 6 different phases of the bird from ash to egg to chick to fledgling to adult to elder phoenix, at which point it will poof back into ashes and you start all over again. Because as a phoenix farmer, you only need one bird to make a living.
I see.
Now, as this goes through the process of transforming into an older bird, it will shed more and more of its magical feathers, which are extremely valuable. So we can exchange the feathers on any given turn down at the marketplace to buy more of the tools, upgrades to our little farmstead, and then eventually pieces of gold coin. There are 21 metal coins in this box, and when the last coin has sold, the game is over. This is not a game of get rich quick. This is, as I said earlier, a game of competitive nurturing. So you earn victory points for every gold you purchase and equally valuable victory points for each time your phoenix was reincarnated along the way. The most profitable and nurturing phoenix farmer is the victor at the end of the story.
I see.
So that's kind of like the quick storytelling on that one. And then next up, we are producing Royal Thread Count. This is going to be a 2 to 5 player Japanese themed fashion design competition.
Fashion design, okay.
So in this game, we are approached by the Empress of Japan, and she says that she wants the finest kimono in all the land. So she gives each of the players a schematic for what that's going to look like. She wants a kimono robe, a hakama skirt, an obi, which is the belt that you wear around the outside of the kimono, and then a sensu, which is the Japanese fan.
10, yeah.
All of these things are going to be made out of silk, and they can come in different colors and come with different patterns.
I see.
Now, at the start of the game, the Empress approaches each of the players to make this request, but she makes completely different requests of each of the players. And how this works is that you'll be given a card at the start of the game that tells you one of the Empress's favorite colors. So she might go to your house and say, orange is my favorite color. And at my house, she'll be like, actually, that green looks pretty nice.
Okay.
And so we have completely conflicting information about what she wants at the start of the game. But shopping is a public affair. So when you go to the market and you start buying orange silk, I'm going to be like, but she told me green was her favorite. I don't know if
you don't know.
Press her or buying to lie to me off the path of what she actually wants.
I see.
Now, in this game, we have 10 turns to collect resources where we will be gathering silk and dye to exchange for different cards. And the most unique thing about what's going on with Royal Thread Count is that we have transparent cards that we use on top of each other to make the So the back card is going to be the color, and then we get the pattern, and then we get the shape.
I see.
Those three things make one complete piece of clothing, but you only have 10 turns to get all 12 resources together. And so you have to be a little bit strategic about when you're going to shop, what you're going to buy, and how much of your resources you're going to sort of invest in those things. Because if you get to the last turn and you can no longer afford to buy the things that you need, you're coming to the Empress with an incomplete outfit, and your odds of victory are going to dwindle quite significantly. So it's kind of like a game of Clue at the end, where we then present the Empress all of our outfits, and then we pull out of that sleeve that she has been living in and reveal all the favorite colors and a secret favorite pattern that she has been all of us the whole rest of the game. That's how we assign all the rest of the big points. So it's a really interesting game. It's super quick. It's like 30 to 45 minutes to play around. And the mechanisms therein for earning all of those different resources are super cool and really kind of unique and interesting.
I see. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a very interesting, very different type of game for sure.
And I don't actually have one like right on me right now, but one of the most interesting things about Royal Thread Count is that we wanted to add a custom plastic component to this game. This was for us. So we had never really done something like that before. And this is kind of like going back to that origin story. Like, I'm trying to use this company to figure out how to like add more crazy things into the box. So this was definitely one of those crazy things. So we wanted to add a D4 into this game. It does not calculate for number. Instead, it calculates for color. So it is a D4 that has like a blue tip, a red tip, a yellow tip, and a white tip. And every time you roll that, it pays out a color to you. Now, this was a crazy thing for us because manufacturing that part overseas was going to make the budget of the game unattainable. So what we decided to do instead is I actually made the part myself.
Really?
And we printed about 2,000 of the dice, and we got those ready for publication over the spring. And about 3 weeks ago, I sent those to Hong Kong because in a couple weeks, we're going to be going through the final manufacturing procedure for getting this game set up for launch.
I see.
So one of the parts in this game is handmade. We had to like put it together. It was more just the machining cost. I was going to get this dice made. Our like low high on the quote estimates was somewhere around like $6,000 to $10,000 just for, it was like $3,000 to $5,000 to make the mold. And then it was like a whole other thing to get like the parts themselves made. We were getting like price per unit about like $2 for
that's really high for a dice.
Really severe. And it's mostly
really
because of the construction of this thing, because it's going to be made with 5 different colors and no numbers. If it's going to be resin molded, then it needs to have like 5 separate parts made that are then glued together. Or if it's going to be like machine molded, then it's going to have to be like made in phase where the different colors are added in at different times. And every different proposal that we kind of sought out to make this thing was coming back like $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000. And the craziest part about this is Bamboo Lab makes this 3D printer that you can attach AMS machines to, which are automatic material switching devices.
I see.
So the cost of the printer was like $1,500 plus the 2 AMS machines that we would need to print in 5 colors. And so all around, it was about like $1,800 to $2,000-ish to buy the setup of the printer. And it was like $100 of PLA to make 2,000 dice.
Yeah.
It took some manual labor on our end, but honestly, like I used one machine to make the 2,000 dice that we were going to need in 1 month. So
okay. So you work out.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And if I was to try and like scale up the game, if we were going to try and do a much bigger production, I think that maybe 5 machines could make 10,000 dice in a week. Like if we just ran them all day, every day and kept churning them out, it would be a very quick process. So
I see. Yeah, that's an interesting journey or problem that you're able to overcome.
Honestly, every game that we have made has come with some really elaborate, confusing problem. Like with Thread Count, it was making the dice. With Phoenix Farm, it was sourcing like metal parts into the game, which was like a total non-negotiable item for us. We really wanted the quality of the game to come through the components. So there's 37 metal parts in Phoenix Farm, and getting the game to cost what it does with how much metal is actually in there was a huge piece of the puzzle. Calendro is interesting because Calendro wasn't even originally a card game. Actually, kind of more like Scrabble at first.
You change it. Okay.
This is an original Calendra tile for those of you watching. This little like handmade prototype where all of our pieces were originally these little tiles that you would put. So figuring out that we needed to make that game out of cards was a totally different thing. And then actually one of the original craziest stories that we had as a company was when we were making The Great Chase, because this game features a world map that is designed on tarot-sized cards. Each of the cards on that map features like 2 time zones, and it is for how you're going to be traveling around the world. I drew that map myself.
You did?
Put a whole bunch of love into getting that to look the way that I wanted it to, because getting a globe-shaped object to exist as a flat plane of cards that makes sense when you look at them was a lot harder than I expected. So ironically, each card actually has 4 time zones on it, but only 2 of them are in color. And then when you stack them all next to each other, it looks a lot cleaner that way.
I see.
So you basically have twice the size of the Earth kind of cut up in this very strange way. When we went into the manufacturing process for The Great Chase, they red flagged the project and told us, we're not going to make this game unless you change this map to look more like China the way we see it. They wanted us to like put the famous dashed lines on there and like change like where islands are located and like how we are like assigning different places to be in the time zone with China. There was this crazy argument that we had that went on for like 2 months.
Really?
We're not going to make this game. We're not going to make this game unless you let us change this map. And I was like, no. I will make the changes you want, but we need to like find a way to negotiate on this.
Yeah. Why are they being so picky about that?
Man, it was so unexpected. And I was like, this is our first game, and I'm already in like an international conspiracy theory. I'm freaking out. I'm like, are they going to come for me? I don't know what's so like there was this huge thing that was going on where we were really struggling to actually get the game made. And then, of course, ironically, the funniest thing about this is that when we finally got through all the negotiating with them and we changed the map all the ways that they wanted us to, we actually made like this little promo dossier that was like a tiny white folder that you could open up and get the original map tiles. So you could have like the one that we were forced to make and the one that we wanted to make in your same kit. It's kind of framed as a internal military conspiracy within the gameplay, which was hysterical.
Okay, that's a very cool story. Thank you so much for sharing that. So as we're kind of wrapping up today's interview, for those listeners that will be interested to learn more about you and your company, where are the best place for people to find you online?
So we have a website store that is www.librarium.games. There's no .com. That's where you can find a whole bunch of resources. We have all of the storytelling of the games. We have all of our rule books and things on there. And then, of course, we have a marketplace there. We are a little bit locally distributed in Massachusetts. And, of course, you can come and find us at the Connecticut Renaissance Fair as well.
Thank you so much for being on our show today, sharing your story, your journey, and all the lessons that you learned along the way.
Thank you so very much for having me. It was a great time, honestly.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you so much for our listeners for tuning in to this episode, Toy Business Unboxed. I hope today's conversation gave you practical insight and fresh inspiration to grow your own toys and game brands. And this podcast is proudly brought you by Toy Launch, a leading marketing and growth partner for toys and game companies. At Toy Launch, we help brands scale on Amazon and beyond through full service account management, PPC, SEOs, creative, catalog optimization, influencer marketing, and also consultation. If you are looking for a proven team that understands both toys industry and the e-commerce world, we are here to help. If you'd like a personal breakdown of your brand, your opportunity, and your best next step, you can schedule a free consultation session with us. Just visit toy-launch.com/schedule. And if you want to connect with other toys and game founders, feel free to join our free community, Toys and Game Launchpad that we recently launched. You can find that at toy-launch.com/group. And until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, and keep bringing joys to toys. This is Jason Shea signing off on the Toy Business Unboxed podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone.